Welcome back, Masters and Pinterests, to another episode of Made News Network. I am your host, S.J. Nix, and I'm here with Peter Lim, also from MNN. And today we have a very special guest from the Ryan Mear Reaction Channel and Gaijin Guys. Welcome to MNN, Ryan Mear.
Hey, what's up, guys? Good to be here. Finally.
That's all good, man. Hey, happy to have you here. I think correct me if I'm wrong, the first time we met was at LA, right?
Yeah, that's right. I met both of you out there.
Yeah. We had talked a few times online about this, that, and the other thing. We got to meet you for that first time there, you and Alan both, and had a blast in line. But the reason we brought, go ahead,
yeah, that was fun, man. Walking up and just seeing so I've seen you and Peter both online and occasionally, and it was just neat to see you there, say hey, and catch up a little bit.
No,
I actually had no idea who Ryan was, which I'm sure it's shocking to people who are subscribers of his channel. But I just generally don't watch reaction channels. Like every once in a while, but like back in the day. So you're like, hey, you're Peter. And I was like, oh God, I'm sorry. Who are you?
Wow.
But it's nice because I didn't know you as Ryan Mear the Reactor. Like I knew you as just a really cool guy. So that was nice. I didn't have any like preconceived notions. Just like, oh, this guy's really just chill and cool. So
right on. So you didn't know who that's funny. Oh, right on. Thanks for sitting and talking with me. You were so freaking tired, dude. You're like falling asleep.
That's true.
Yeah. How's it going?
Yeah, he was dying. He was hurting that day, man, because he got there. Well, you got there about, would you get there about 8? Something like that, 8 in the morning?
Yeah, Ryan, you got there around 8?
I think I was around 10 o'clock. It was around 10.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, we got
there.
It was up and high because we talked to you. We'd already done a live stream or so, at least one.
Yeah. And I was there. I had my wife and son were there, so I wasn't, they weren't there with me initially. They came in later, but I don't know. We had went all over LA the day before walking. and then I went there and, that caught up with me right about showtime.
LA is not a walking town.
Oh man. We were all, we were different and Lyfts and Ubers and like all over, Hollywood and out to Santa Monica Pier. And once you get to a spot, you're going to walk and stand. And it was fun though.
All right. Well, we brought you on here today to chat a little about this, that, and the other thing. And I figured we'll start with some background on you. Say, I discovered you through your reaction channel. I liked what you were doing. You kind of came from a musician's background. It wasn't your garden variety, waste of airtime. Ooh, these guys are great type of stuff. You actually brought something to it. And I also noticed that you were, especially stuff that really touched you deeply, you had no trouble being emotional about it. And I kind of connected with that. That's how I kind of got into you. So, but what got you into YouTube? How did you decide I'm going to try this out?
I was watching. It's kind of interesting because this all ties together. But I was kind of in a spot musically where I was kind of stuck. And a lot of people get to this point where you listen to the same thing every day, like your old favorite bands and stuff that just you love, so you just listen to it, and you're kind of tired of looking for new shit because you hear, it's just what you like, and that's what you listen to. So I was looking at YouTube and I found a channel called Lost in Vegas. Just two guys, those guys. Well, they're listening to like Alice in Chains, Metallica, and stuff that they were. They're more kind of hip hop guys, and they're discovering hard rock and heavy metal, and seeing their reactions to it confirmed that what I knew about them already, which is what I think appeals to people about reaction channels. You get confirmation that your band's awesome, and it really is really cool. And seeing somebody else experience that kind of just reinforces that. So seeing them do that, and my son at the time was listening to a lot of hip hop and Eminem and stuff, and that got me started watching Stevie Knight and seeing him break down the bars in hip hop and stuff, and then seeing him listen to some other music. I was like, man, it'd be really cool to do, right? I can do that, you know. And I didn't really have much as far as equipment goes. I was working with a local nonprofit place for music in town, and through them, I had got acquainted with a Zoom camera, so I had my own Zoom, or my own not Zoom camera, just a webcam. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try it. So I just brought up some stuff that I liked and kind of gave insight on it, and which like nobody watched. And then I did a Metallica something off of Saint Anger or Load, which wasn't real good. And some people reacted to that. And that's kind of what got it started. I just wanted to try it out, man. So I just tried out with stuff I knew. And then on my first, one of my first videos, somebody suggested Nightwish. And then it started.
Yeah, with the reaction channels, you just find the band or that song, and people just flock to it.
Yeah. So let's see. I think one of the first ones, it was like Johnny Cash's Hurt, which I knew of, but I didn't really. I knew the song originally from Nine Inch Nails. And so I never really looked closely at Johnny Cash's song. And then I watched the video, and I'm like, it's a really heavy, like sad video, because he puts it in the context of his life. And you see him go from being a young, you know, good looking country, like basically turns into like a rock star almost. And then he's old. He looks way different. You can tell he's just slowing down, and he's lost so much. And it's like, damn, that was heavy. And that was kind of I don't know. It's just people start kind of noticing that one. But anyway, the Nightwish suggestion came on, and so I watched one of those, and then I had like, I don't know, 60 subscribers, and went up to like 1,000 in a week. I was like, holy crap. And I liked the music. I genuinely liked the music. It was something I hadn't heard before. And I think on the first Nightwish reaction I put out, somebody suggested Band-Maid, and then on the second one, there's another suggestion for Band-Maid. So I watched Thrill, of course. And I think it's Thrill, Oh God, and then Domination was the first three.
Such an interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, man. So and Thrill, you know, that one that got me hooked in, because it's so interesting, that song, just because it's, you know, not their original composition, but it's so, you know, it's such a it's where a lot of people start off. It's so popular, right? And it's so different, because I was listening to like for me it was like Alice in Chains and Winery Dogs and Metallica and Faith No More, Nine Inch Nails, stuff like that. So this song touched on like a lot of those. It had some bass being featured. It had some cool chord, just little things that reminded me of all these bands. I'm like, nobody else is reminding me of all these bands. It's ridiculous. So that kind of piqued my interest, you know. And then as you know, that brought in more people, and then No God, and that was the song that got me to appreciate key changes.
So speaking of key changes,
yeah,
you're have you softened, or should I say, have you warmed up to Cross?
I was just thinking that in my head.
We had to get there at some point. Man,
you don't have to. It's actually
still
not
kind of where it
done.
was.
That's
yeah,
okay.
it's still kind of where it was, you know.
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's a weird one. That song does weird stuff. It goes
is, and
weird places.
They're playing it live now too. They play it their last few shows, and I'd be interested to hear it. Kind of, I don't know. It's one of them things. There's so many that you know, there's just other songs I'd rather hear.
Yeah.
About 70 or 80 other songs I'd rather hear.
I've heard both the original and acoustic version
Excuse
of
me.
it. I've heard an acoustic
Oh,
version
really?
of it. Yeah, because there was an acoustic and chat that they did like back in 2019.
Wow.
But yeah, even for me, it's not my favorite song. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine, but I can pass it by. So
Yeah.
you're not alone.
Well done. It's well done, of course. But yeah.
So you're obviously you're a musician. One of the aspects of your channel is that you learn these songs, you break them down, or something to that effect with it. How
Yeah.
long you been playing guitar, and when did that start? And, you know, who got you inspired?
All right. I've been playing guitar for 31 years. Long time, since
Mhm.
92. And let's see.
Wait, how 92? That's pretty late. How
I was 13.
okay. Okay.
Does that work out mathematically? 13, 40. Yeah, it's pretty close.
It's in the
31,
ballpark.
32, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it's 13 when I started. So yeah, I mean,
Mm.
it's not, I kind of late. A lot of people seems like they start out whatever, preteen or whatever, but at, my neighbor, what got me started on that was I liked music a lot anyway. My brother was very eclectic as far as musical taste. He had Sinatra and
Mm.
9 Inch Nails and Metallica and White Zombie and just Carly Simon. He was all over the place. And that, since it's my older brother, that just made it cool to like a bunch of music, right?
Mm.
But I gravitated towards heavier stuff. We used to skate, so I got into skate, you know, a lot of suicidal tendencies and some punk and stuff like that.
Mm.
And so I was into music anyway, but there's also a lot of, let's see, you know, BC Boys and LL Cool J, just all over the place. But my neighbor played guitar when I was little, and he'd sit out on his porch and he'd have his guitar, his amp, and he would just sit there and he'd just play. And me and my friend from down the street, we'd sit there and just watch him play, and he'd just sit there and shred and show off, and we just sit there in awe. And you know, if he played something we knew, it was like, wow, this guy can actually play this stuff, you know. And he played like Van Halen and stuff like that. So I told my mom and dad, I'm like, hey, I would really like a guitar.
Mm.
And the being the awesome parents they are, they were at an auction, and that for my birthday they gave me a guitar. It's an acoustic Maybell Carter student model acoustic from like the 1930s. Like they didn't know at all what it was.
Right.
So this guitar it's an old guitar, no neck adjustment. The frets are worn out flat. The neck was the size of a baseball bat, and that's what I learned guitar on. I didn't know any better, you know what I mean? Like what a good guitar was. I had a guitar. So I fought with this thing for a solid, you know, probably a year or less, a little bit less than a year, but like learning on it. And I think because of that, I don't really care what's in my hands. I'll play it because that thing was so, like, now I know how bad it was. Like, I was surprised I was able to do anything on it. But yeah, so that's what kicked it off. So I'd take it over there, and that guy would show me some things, you know, as far as playing guitar. And then I had a mutual friend of my brother, so he was a fantastic guitar player, and he would occasionally he'd show me things here and there. So
You still have that old thing?
I do. I'm not sure which case it's in right now. I still got it. I'll never get rid of that, man.
So that's right. I have my first guitar. We keep our crap. My first guitar was a Mako, which was like a knockoff of a Kramer. And
Yeah.
I shit you not, the body's plywood.
Oh yeah.
So but I still have it. It's horrible, but I still keep it in my it's in my closet with my others.
Weighs about 9 pounds. probably heavy.
It's a little
I've had
yeah.
I've had a couple that were, you know, you take the pick guard off and you can see just the layers of plywood. But yeah, man, it's I brought that out when I started I started my channel, I have a couple videos on there. They're old, and where I played some original stuff, and then I brought that out and played one of my old songs on that guitar, just to kind of show off the guitar and everything. So
What, so even though you were playing guitar,
Mhm.
at what point did that turn from practicing and playing guitar to, God, I really love this thing and I wanted to do something with it in my life? Do you remember that?
yeah, dude, it's all I cared about. That's all I cared about was playing guitar. Like I would I used to skate all the time, and then it was like, whatever, I'm playing guitar. So I was all in, like, immediately. When I said one friend, he'd show me things occasionally, and he helped me. I was starting to learn like some Metallica songs or something. And after, man, that's a good question. I loved it immediately, and I wanted, like, I would just try things on it. And I've taught some people, give lessons here and there for a while, and I've taught some people. One thing I always try to get people to do, and my son included, is it's like, man, just mess around with it, just play around with it, because there's no,
Right.
you can do whatever you want, you know. Well, how do I play? Well, here's basic things. Here's what you do to get your fingers to work, but just mess around with it. And I think once I started, it was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. That's what did it. Good question. I was just messing around with it, and I hit an open E, and then I happened to fret on the right note that was a second note for Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Do 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 do. I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. So I figured out that song, or ABCs, whatever, same melody. And I figured out that melody. I just found the notes, and then it was like, I can do that with anything. If I can do it for that, I can do it for anything. And so I started just listening and learning by ear, and just teaching myself how to hear what's going on. And yeah, that was like the moment. I'm like, oh, you can just do that.
So you were
Mom, Dad,
rocking
look,
out
I
to
can play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Yeah, I was so
Twinkle,
happy. I was so happy, dude.
twinkle.
I was so happy. And then I realized, I went to the next string. I'm like, well, it's a different note, but I can do the same thing on this string, so it was kind of an eye opener as far as what you could do. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, man.
Right on.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So we know that you've already mentioned Nightwish was kind of your entry into reactions. We know that the Band-Maid resonated with you pretty early.
Yeah.
Any other like pure like, oh my God, these are great discoveries doing reactions?
Yeah, there's been so many. That's the kind of the crazy thing about this, is what I was talking about when I started. I was kind of in a rut. Like, I listened to the same 10 bands over and over and over, and I was happy with it because these are great, And now it's like there's not enough time to listen to all the incredible music I've discovered, and it's just insane, because people, you got your bubble and you think, oh, there's nothing good anymore. It's like, dude, you need to just look around. There's so much good music. If you can get past certain things that, like language, or where the music's from, you got so much music you can't even understand what's going on. But yeah, I noted some bands that have been pretty important for me as far as what I discovered. So first one's coming to mind, of course, Band-Maid, Nightwish. But then another one that's become just one of my absolute favorites is Unleash the Archers. I love that. And Communic. It's a fantastic band. It's a 3-piece band. They sound huge. Fair to Midlands, Ginger. But Gdjyb, which I don't know if you guys heard of them or not. It's a pretty obscure band, but their music is so chill and so cool, and they cover some pretty important topics. Doll's Box, Nemophila, Atarashigako, He Is Legend, Periphery, Sai Sega, that's pretty recent. Super Junkie Monkey, Ningen Isu, VOB. I mean, these bands are just to me, they're just monsters in what they do. And a lot of these things, when you discover them, you're like, wow, this like Ninja Nisu should be just known globally for how freaking how they carried the torch of like the Black Sabbath kind of ethos of music, and they perfected it, and they just still do it, and it's so good. But so many people don't know about them. And Voice of Bachiprat is, they're amazing, man. You know, the style they've carved out their own kind of niche in music, and I love three-piece bands and how big they can sound with what little you have, you know. And they're just a really cool. I don't know, man. Those are all bands that are like in regular play.
Who's your favorite three-piece band of all time?
Man. Well, let's see.
Will that take a few minutes?
Well, now I got to sort through all the blues that I've heard. Well, yeah, because I would say Stevie, but he always had keys in there too. Steve Ray Vaughan. Three-piece though. Freaking Primus.
I was
Primus is
expecting Rush. Actually, that's kind of like that's the easy one. That's low hanging fruit.
Yeah, I listen to Primus way more than I listen to Rush. I do like Rush, but it's kind of like Rush for me. Okay, Hendrix, obviously huge freaking monster in music, influence for millions of people. I can't just sit and listen to his albums. Him as an artist, as a guitarist, freaking idol. But I don't sit and just listen to the records. You know what I mean? Same with Rush. Like there's moments that are just absolutely fantastic, but I don't sit and listen to the albums. Primus, I have most of them I can just sit and just listen to the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy band. It's been a big part of my musical development. Kind of a band that got me to pay attention to drums and like how they affect music from a musical standpoint instead of just rhythm. Yeah, Tim Alexander is amazing.
So you guys, this is a Gaijin guys question. So you're doing all four of you were out doing your own thing, but a whole lot of overlap. Who reached out to who came up with the concept of Gaijin guys?
Yeah, I think it was Alan. And pretty sure I was the last one kind of on board. You know, I was the newest out of everybody. And I heard their names when I started. I heard, you know, there's always talk about Wave, probably mostly, and Champ, and Chase, and Dichotic. And we all became aware of each other, you know. I think I may have commented on a couple of Waves videos. We, you know, communicated a little bit just as far as on comments and stuff. And a couple people are like, you need to get in contact with Wave, and you guys are probably, you know, hit it off or whatever. I was like, okay, you know, I don't know. And yeah, Alan got us together, and then we had, well, there was one initial thing where it was all of us, and then old Mr. B and Metalhead's Perspective, I think. We all got together did like a live stream just talking about the Christmas acoustic concert, I think. And from there it's like, you know, we got along pretty well and just chit chat, and I think that was his test, and then he's like, yeah, we could all get along. So that kind of sold him as far as us being able to do a show. Turned out all right.
Yeah, you guys seem to be doing good. It grows every week. I do my best to listen in and see what's going on, and it seems like you've got your regulars, but your view count seems to keep going up and going up. So, you know, good for you guys. Peter, you're saying?
Oh, I was going to ask, because there's a different dynamic between doing your own video, and there's a comfort in just doing your own thing, and then kind of going with the flow of a group. So I'm curious which you prefer. And I'm sure there's pros and cons to both, but which do you personally prefer?
Well, you know, now I think about it, the way I do things on my own has changed since you know, joining the Gaijin guys. Was Because I used to do, just watch a video on my own and then make my little notes and do whatever. And now mainly I do reactions through live streams, which is it's just so much more fun. I still occasionally I'm like, I gotta watch this, and it'll give me a chance to kind of zero in a little more on the music when I'm doing it like by myself. Because if live streaming, I'm aware there's people there, and it changes it a little bit, but you also get interaction, which it can spark other conversation. So I don't know. Yeah, it's affected me that way. I like being able to communicate with people in real time as opposed to just do it on my own and then put it out there and see what happens.
Oh,
You
it's kind
don't
of like a
have to edit.
performance, right?
What?
No editing, no editing.
Yeah. So yeah, live stream, it gives me a chance. You can get kind of what happens in real time, and then I can go back and, streamline a little bit and add some other thoughts if I want. But yeah, it's just it's fun. Now the whole internet, Alan's internet issues and my internet issues are a problem that's hopefully being rectified by now, because that's like it's a constant issue. Mine wasn't, and all of a sudden it became an issue, and I'm like trying to sort that out. But so yeah, my live streams got really choppy lately, so I have to record the whole thing and then put it up later so people can actually watch it.
Yeah, another thing about your channel that I think I liked early on was your text overlays. You would be reacting to it live, and then you would do an overlay talking about a little more in depth with what you were hearing and seeing at the time, or if you'd said something stupid, you put a little correction over the top. I think that was kind of kind of an endearing part of your videos as well. So I think that's part of your charm, I guess.
Yeah, I've kind of got away from it. I'm like, I'm torn between doing it that way and, people want to see that, but if I feel the need for it, I'll do it, because I think it comes with the experience of doing it, to where before there's so much stuff going through my head, I didn't know how to kind of express myself as far as communicating what I was thinking. So I wouldn't understand it until I was watching it again and editing, and like, oh yeah, so I'd add something. So I still do it if it's something necessary. I don't do it just to do it. But yeah, that was just it was just like a necessary thing to, like, oh, I forgot to mention this, so I'd put it in there.
Yeah, like for me, I think I tend to be more proficient, and I think I'm a better writer because I can think and I have the time to digest my ideas and put out words and change words and edit and then put it out there.
Yeah.
So, I'll have like reviews that I've done over the past few years of Band-Maid, and I'll post it. I'm like, oh, I like this, like the way that I worded this. But when it comes to doing anything with the video, just because it takes time to edit and do all these things, at the end, I always feel like, damn it, it wasn't good enough. I don't think I've ever put out a single video. I don't know how SC feels about his videos, but for me, I always feel like, why can't I do this better? That's just how I feel, So I do understand like that idea of wanting to edit and edit and edit to make it better. And you have this other idea, and then this other idea just like starts piling up. Which one is better? Both of these work. Which one should I choose?
Yeah, man. At some point, it's weird, because you mentioned it like that, because I just think about this about recording music. Is at some point every day I'd try and think of what I would say to Band-Maid if I ever got like a proper interview with them. And what I want to know, one thing I would love to know a little more in depth is what the songs sound like originally, like the original compositions from Konami's mind on usually piano or whatever medium she uses. And then at what point does she start thinking about the add-ons that layer these songs with so much stuff that you can take the vocals out and you still have a complete song? Like, is it like you get the whole bass thing complete and then you add these things in? And what you mentioned about editing and what it related to me about music, and what it brings it back to that is, when do you know when to stop? Is somebody like, hey, that's enough, knock it off? Or because you can just add exponentially to a song. You're never happy. And at some point you just have, like with me, sometimes I will be working on something. I'm like, that's it. It's done. Like, I don't need to add anymore. And then sometimes I just want to keep adding it and I have to give it to somebody else. Be like, dude, is this too much? You know? And
Right.
so, and it's like with editing, you can tweak and tweak and tweak. And a couple of things, just the time, like when I record when I did videos on my own without anybody watching, I could stop and think and contemplate and then edit that shit out later. And then it got to where I had to edit so much crap out. I'm like, I need to just be more concise. This is ridiculous. Like, and in doing that for my own videos, it made me able to be more comfortable live streaming because I wasn't always trying to think what to say. It was just got to me to be able to think a little bit quicker. I still like zone out sometimes, but I think people that watch me kind of expect it. So
We all
So
do.
they-
yeah, it cuts down on editing. The more you do it, the better you get, and the less editing you have to do. So it kind of, it's evolution.
I'm good with, I can just turn on a camera and go. I will talk.
Yeah.
If I stumble over something, I'll just kind of laugh at myself for a second. I'll fix it. And then we'll just keep on driving through. I can make stuff up on the fly really, really good. So I can easily do, I mean, I could talk 5 minutes straight about this damn coffee cup and tell you all about
Right.
it, stuff that you never cared about, never wanted to know. I've just always been able to do that. It's not often that I just completely shut down mentally and stuff like that.
But are
I
you happy
hate-
with it?
I don't look at it. I don't look at this stuff from a perfection. It's more of, I look at it as art. One of the great things about art is art isn't perfect. If you try to make art perfect, it kind of ceases, it loses a little bit of its personality. So I'm okay with there being little flubs and flaws, and, imperfections. You can
My problem.
see. So the perfect example, and this real quick, is when I was doing I used to have a woodworking business. I kind of moved away from it with my pens, and I make props for cosplayers and stuff like that. You can absolutely fix something until it's broke beyond repair. So you have to get to a point where you're like, I'm done. It's good. I'm happy with it. Is it perfect? Maybe not, but I'm happy with it. And that's when once you can say you're happy with it, you got to stop.
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing though, is, like I used to do music and, I started off with like a 4-track Tascam cassette tape,
Yeah.
recording over myself, like looping over.
One of the blue ones. I had one of those.
So this is actually when I used to go to church back in the day. I had the keys to the church and I would go into like the not the pulpit, but like the worship hall, whatever, bring out all the equipment, bring out the mixer, and I would spend like 5 hours from like 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. recording stuff.
Awesome.
And I would just layer stuff and layer stuff and layer stuff. And I would listen and I would go, this is pretty good. And I'd listen and listen. And then maybe about 100 times I go, yeah, this is it. And then the 101st time I go, oh, this is shit. This is terrible. Why did I think this was good 100 times through?
Yeah. And then you're like, well, how many overdubs into it and you can't just undo it and fix it because you're working with tape.
So-
You're like,
yeah.
I shouldn't have done that last thing.
So Pro Tools was nice.
Yeah, it's crazy because now you can try a million things and you don't lose anything. Back in the day where you're working with an analog tape, you're like, oh shit, I really messed that up. Then you gotta, try and do it again.
But that is kind of fun. I think like what SJ was saying, the floods and stuff, you can't go back. There's some things like you said it and you can't retract it. And you go,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave it in. This will pass.
Yeah.
You'll always know it's there. You'll always hear it. And it's more often than not, it's something no one else hears but you. And I understand how that can kind of be like, son of a bitch, but you just gotta say it's fine.
It's like videos too, you know what you didn't say, what you didn't put in there, but everyone's just like, oh yeah, that was really good, great job, I liked it a lot. So it's the
Absolutely.
curse of the artist.
So speaking of art, another thing that watching your stuff, and it was you're listening. I hope I'm right on this. You're doing a listen through of Unseen World and you're drawing at the same time. And you basically did the half skull drawing of all
Yeah.
the maids from the world domination. That was fantastic.
Thank you. I still got it.
See,
I got it right here, actually.
You're just ready to show off, aren't you?
Well, Nick's gave me some heads up questions. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I can find that stuff. Because I actually had to find my notepad. I'm like, where is that? So yeah, and it's always smaller than I remember. It's only that big.
That's a great job.
and just watching your and someone actually commented on this one. You're doing the Misa, and you don't do the standard art. You don't draw your little circle with your vertical and horizontal center points. You just fucking went for it and just started where you felt like and knocked it out, and it came out like that.
Oh, that's something I've gotten away from, but it was like a bigger part of my life than music was just art. My dad used to do freelance artwork, and I would see him when I was young. He would be doing portraits or just, he did this picture of Moses, was huge and charcoal and just black and white charcoal. And I used to just watch him, and he started teaching me how to draw like as soon as I could learn. And and then I drew all the time. It was drawing all the time, and then it was guitar, and then I did tattoos for a long time, and it kind of blended my art. Well, it didn't blend it, but it made it so like people were actually seeing what I was doing. And then so it flips flops between like music and art. So yeah, the way I developed drawing, usually if you ever see, like if you watch any of the pictures I did there, I usually start with the eye, and that's just how I do portraits, which is a stupid way to do it, because I've ended up on that drawing. Actually, if you watch the video, so I did Akane, like I finished it, and then I erased like the whole bottom half of Konami and Akane's faces because they were just wrong. They're just out of whack. I'm like, that looks horrible. And the last thing you want to do is erase a finished freaking drawing and just start over. But I had to do it. I'm like, it's wrong. And, I was like, oh man, it's way too long. But I put it in there. So yeah, I usually start with the eye and then kind of build everything off of the eye. Because what I do is because usually what I started doing was upscaling drawings. Like I would take a little photo and I would just draw it bigger. And I didn't use any grid system or anything like that. I would start with the eye, and then the eye is this big compared to the nose. And then I would just scale everything up that way, the way I drew it, people and cars and just everything this is how I drew. So yeah, there's easier ways to do it. Like you're saying, block it out, do an oval. And I will do things like if I'm drawing some superhero stuff, I'll kind of block it out, do it that way. But
who's your favorite superhero?
Oh, Batman. Yeah.
Are you DC all the way?
Comics, I was always more of a DC fan. Movies, I don't care if it's good, it's good. Marvel freaking killed it, man. And DC is just dropping the ball. But I was always more into DC comics just because I don't know, Marvel was always just kind of silly to me. And DC was always a little more grittier, I guess.
Interesting.
They both got their silly things, obviously, but I like Batman, dude. There's a picture of me at 3 years old with a Batman shirt on. And then it was at my grandma's, and she had some old comics just sitting around, and there's one from 1966. It was a Batman comic. And I used to read that thing over and over. It's like him and the Flash. And then I started getting comics then. And then there was a big stretch where I didn't even really look at them. And I picked one up and I'm like, what did they do to Batman? It was like in the middle of this big story arc where it's somebody else, and got back into it for a while. And, it's an ongoing thing. I got a lot of Batman stuff.
No, I had like probably 10 Batman shirts in junior high.
Yeah.
It was all Batman back in the day too. Yeah.
Right on.
So,
So
I
yeah.
was
but
nothing. I never got into I mean, I'd watch the shows. I'd watch the Superman cartoons and the Batman cartoons, even the live
Yeah.
action stuff from the 60s and 70s. I think I liked the Batman live action because it was just so corny and cheesy.
Yeah.
But I was never a real
uh
big superhero dude.
but you like anime, right? Or you like cosplay stuff?
That came so much. That's because my son got into, it was something for us to do together. He started watching a
Ah,
bunch of
that's
anime when
cool.
he was in his early teens.
mm,
And so I had already liked Japanese music at that point. He found anime. So they kind of went together. And then
Right
we
on.
went to an anime convention to see, it was a local Japanese American band played down in San Diego. And we went to that and we liked the convention was kind of cool. So the next time we went to a convention, we cosplayed the anime that we really liked together. And it just kind of blossomed out of that. It was a
That's
bonding
cool.
thing.
That's cool.
interesting. Yeah,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. We we don't want this whole video to go into comments, but it can. I feel like I know I could.
Talk
Goes
about
where it
whatever,
goes.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, comics were a big for art. Once I found comics, I used to redraw comics a lot. I find my favorite page of the comic and I redraw it. And
Hmm.
as you do that, you learn you learn how to draw it or whatever. So in high school I focused on like anatomy and just drawing figures and stuff. And, it was just a fun thing to do. I've drawn Batman probably a million freaking times because he's like the coolest one to draw anyway. He's got a
He's
cool
the
mask, you know immediately who it is, and it's just fun.
he's the easiest. It's just sharp lines. It's
Yeah.
just sharp lines. I could draw Batman
Yeah.
in my sleep, and every time every time I'm with kids, I'm like, all right, guys, look at this, and I'll just draw Batman. The
Yeah.
first thing I do.
Yep. Takes a few
And
lines
it's
to know exactly who it is.
he looks the same way he did. I drew him like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
He's exactly the same. Nothing changes.
Even now I'll watch I can't think of the artist's name right now. I should. Never mind. It's a tangent. We probably don't need to go down anyway.
All right, what's the next question?
So we'll bring it back to what this channel's about. So your first show was LA, right? Or did you do, okay, LA was your first one. Who else did you do that to? I know you did a bunch of East Coast stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was LA, then DC, Philly, New York, and Boston. And then I went back to Chicago. So I'm there in their last show.
And you got all those shows at the end because people were like, hey, here's a ticket, go.
Right. When they announced it, I saw the tour schedule. I'm like, oh man. So I was like, I gotta see this. Is my first opportunity. I have to see this band. It's my favorite band in my whole life. I gotta see him. And then I sent the schedule to my wife and a picture. I'm like, pick a date. And she picked LA. I'm like, LA, really? She's like, if we're gonna go, we might as well make it good.
Hmm.
I was like, all right, cool. So we made like the thing of it. We're gonna go there and stay for a little while. And oh gosh, I don't know who the first one was. It you, Nick? You said I got a ticket for you.
Yeah, for LA. I said if you get to
For
LA, I
LA.
got a ticket for you and Alan. You, Alan, and Vlad. And
Right.
getting my extra tickets.
Right. Okay. And yeah, that was yeah. So that was the first one, and I was like, cool. So, and then it was somebody is like, well, if you can make it out to DC, I got a ticket for you, and if you can make it here, and then it was like, all right, fine. So it was just they weren't all given to me. I ended up, since I was there, I went ahead and got I got tickets for a few shows, and because of the fans, I ended up going to several shows because I didn't one of my mods on my Discord lived out that way. He's like, hey, if you can make it out here, I'll pick you up and we can stay at my brother's and we can go to the show. So without the connections I made, that's a crazy thing about this whole situation with Bandmates. I started a Discord. There's like 600 some members on there now. I've met a lot of them in person, and without them, I would never would have done that trip. I'm not a traveling guy, let alone by myself. Like my wife is the planner. So going out to like several different states on the East Coast and cities I've never been to, I'm not comfortable in, just wouldn't have happened without this community. It's insane because I met up with people that I talk to every day from Germany and France and Sweden, and they're way more comfortable traveling. So I was always in like a comfortable zone, you know. So, you know, I met up with Joe, and then I was able to get from the airport, you know, to where I needed to go. So it was so amazing to be able to go through that and not be completely stressed out, because there was always somebody there who I was just with. It was
Gotcha.
it's amazing.
So question, quick
Mhm.
question. You strike me more as an introverted guy. Like you do your own thing, you have your own time, you're kind of in your own space versus going out
Yeah.
and like meeting people and shaking hands, doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself transitioning even at this age to like becoming more social and interacting, like wanting to do that and being okay with being a little bit more outgoing? Or do you find yourself at odds with the fact that you are acquiring all these people who are like following you, who respect you, who are looking up to you? I mean, and then you kind of having to respond to that. Like, does that affect you at all?
I'm definitely more open. Like I said, to travel. Like I'd have been freaked out to just go to New York, like on my own. And I was after going to LA and then talking with people, I was like open to it. So it's now in my head, like I wanted to go to these shows and get interviews with people that I had finally met in person and get their story about how they got there and all this stuff. And then I get there, I'm like, I can't do this shit. Like I really like I am I am not an extrovert. I'm an introverted guy. So to have people come up and be like, hey, I watch your videos, and I'm like, you know, I don't know how I came off when people did that, but I was always super thankful and surprised. And I really had the idea of doing like a whole documentary thing, but that shit's hard to do. Like once you get in that situation, it's a lot of work anyway, you know, just to get there and then to try and document it. It's like I was like, I can't do it. I'm just gonna be here and you know, whatever I can recount, I will. But you know, it has affected me because I'm more open to it. And like we're going to Japan in June, which is another thing that I thought about a lot over a lot of my life. It's a place I've wanted to go forever, but I never thought I'd get there, you know. And now it's happening, and it's directly because of Band-Maid. Like they didn't have anything to do with it. It's just the circumstance of just the involvement of all these people. And now there's people that, you know, I consider friends I've never met in person, but they're in Japan, and I'm going there with also like a built-in comfort zone. It's still going to be freaking crazy, but I'm not going there just being like, okay, figure shit out, you know. It's gonna be an amazing experience.
They will. One day, SJ.
Yeah, one day. Yeah. It'll happen eventually. Maybe it may not be until I retire. I have a little more flexibility.
Yeah.
And it's just expensive. Are you taking the whole family, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I already know it's anytime we travel anywhere international or just in the US, I budget between $1,000 and $1,200 a day. That's all inclusive. That's flights, entertainment, food, lodging, all that stuff. So a trip to Japan under 10 days is kind of pointless, in my opinion. You're not going to get to do much. So I'm looking
Yeah.
at 15 grand.
Right. Yeah. It's not cheap, man. And you know, that's what, you know, I on my channel, I try and cover like lots of music. There's obviously a few bands that get a lot more views than everything else. And then I'll put out 10 videos to get like 400 views. But what, what, what makes it worth it? I don't like if I put out a video of a band that gets, you know, a small percentage of views, on that video, there's at least one person that's like, I never knew of this band. Thank you. And then I'm like, fucking cool, man. Because for me, as a musician who doesn't get listened to a lot, any kind of, recognition is great. If I put out an original music video and it gets, a few hundred views in a couple hours, well, that's a few hundred views that it wouldn't have got if I was just sitting in my room freaking playing guitar. So if I can take an artist who I think is a phenomenal artist and throw it out there and get them in front of 20 people that didn't know who they were, that's great, man, because that's just, it's a little bit, but it's just more people. If they can tell somebody else and it can help an artist get known, that's just freaking great.
I think as much as they go ahead.
What I was leading to was, so different music, different people, that leads to, I started a Patreon, and the people there want to hear different stuff. They don't want to just hear Band-Maid or Nemophila or Baby Metal. They want to hear like random stuff, and sometimes just straight up weird shit, but it's cool. It opens my eyes, and that's why I can go to Japan, really, because that it's a kind of it's just an amazing thing. Like, I do this thing that people dig, and now I'm able to go to Japan and make this goal happen I've had for a long time.
That's awesome.
I think what I was saying, I think that the reactor community is kind of the new payola from like the 50s and 60s, whereas this is how these bands are getting exposure that way. They're not paying you directly. In fact, they're taking any little bit of money that you would have made off of these videos.
Yeah, they're getting
it. This is the new way of exposing bands to an audience. Because radio is kind of just isn't anymore, at least not for the type of stuff we listen to.
Yeah. I think so too. I think it's become important. Like, it was just a thing people watched to be entertained. Like I said, I watch stuff because I like seeing people react to an old Alice in Chains song the same way I did the first time I heard it. But then that evolved to me in like finding new music and appreciating things more because somebody broke them down in a way that I never thought about it, with like a lot of hip hop and stuff, and like understanding lyricism and how there's all these different levels of writing in hip hop. And just, I was like, wow, there's a lot more going on than just the initial content of the song, like the artistry and in constructing a verse and internal rhyme schemes and all this stuff. I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot going on here,
Yeah.
And that translates into you appreciating an artist more. And yeah, if I can, I don't know, I'm discovering new, if I can get other people to discover new music, that's better for music. What little contribution is going to be.
All right, Ryan, three
Yeah.
obscure bands right now. 3 bands right now. Drop them. Get it out there right now.
Well,
That people don't really know about.
People should know about. Damn, dude.
Throwing out Band-Maid, Nemophila, all those bigger bands.
Right. So, I mean, I think they're blowing up now, but Sega is going to be, they're getting known. Gdjyb is another, I mentioned them earlier. I don't know how to explain really what they do. It's a very mood kind of music. And
Instruments? What instruments?
it's guitar, bass, drums, some keys. Very chill kind of stuff. There's mixed English and Japanese. There's Chinese. Really
Don't get your Asians mixed up. We're very sensitive about
crap.
that.
Yeah. So it might be Hong Kong, actually.
What's the name of them?
Gdjyb. I think the name has something to do with the food. If I remember right.
It looks, the characters are Chinese, so I'm going to assume that's what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's more they talk about a lot of stuff going on politically, like Hong Kong and stuff. So the music is kind of light, and it can be kind of dark, but the music is not heavy music or anything, but the topics they handle are pretty heavy topics. So
About to look.
Find out.
3 bands.
Okay.
So it's Gdjyb, Sega, and Periphery is pretty amazing. They're not, I guess they're not small. I don't know, man. It's relative to, like, to me, they're a huge band, but I know they're not, because most of the bands I listen to aren't huge bands, but they're a pretty amazing band. The vocals are all over the scale as far as what kind of style, and they're all just phenomenal musicians. So it's, I don't know, man. There's 3 very different bands.
Okay.
Very different bands.
All right. And last question for the interview.
All right.
What is Bandmaid's next step for world domination?
Man, I actually had to write something down to answer this. So we'll see how this goes. I think the best thing they can do is just keep being themselves. I missed a lot of the original posts, like their Bandcamp days and stuff like that. I've seen them, but I didn't see them initially. And it seems like there's a lot of ways they put themselves out there that let you get to know them a little bit, personality wise. And they don't seem to do that anymore. Like there's a little bit in management wise, they're not allowed to just kind of be as free as they were. But I think I don't know. They just need to keep being. I'm just going to read what I wrote because it made more sense. Yeah. So with this band, you get this like once in a generation mix of commendable talent and wonderful individual personalities in a band relationship that works on all fronts. So you don't have the ego. So you don't have a band that's like fighting itself all the time. And it's, it's just truly rare. Most bands with this much talent, they're shattered by ego or artistic desires by the individuals. This band has no ego, and they want to push each other to their best in the most selfless way. So the band is a lesson in like humanity in a way. That's a big. So I guess that's a great way to find yourself at the top. Like you can't be battling each other all the time and have any kind of success. I don't know. Did that
Frank Sinatra way of doing things? I did it my way.
Yeah, it's weird because they're doing it their way, but their way is to work together. You know what I mean? So it's like world domination, but they need to like everybody to work together. It's just the best way to go about everything. It's like, it's they're selfless with each other. So, and that's how you you accrue fans. I don't know.
I think, not to go too long, but I feel like Bandmaid's very unreal, uncanny. On the one hand, they're like the most human artists you'll ever meet. And on the other hand, they're the most inhuman or unhuman. There's something so untouchable about them, because they're so humble, they're so genuine, and they're so caring and loving, and like in this industry and this community of wanting to dominate, and like that word itself, like dominate. And yes, when you look at them, it's like there's this tension about it. There's that huge gap between being so just like so heart and so human, and yet because of that, it's like who is like that? There's nobody like that. So it's unreal.
It's hard to explain. That's kind of what I was getting at. Is they're the way they'll dominate is by bringing everybody together, which is kind of a silly thing. Like you don't take control of everything by bringing everybody together. But I think that's how it's going to work, man. They show their appreciation for their fans constantly, and they show their appreciation for each other constantly. And that's 2 things that most bands just don't do. You don't get that from even my favorite bands. They rarely took a moment to really say, thank you guys for being our fans, at an awards or something like that. They'd say it, or, but they didn't write songs about it. And then their appreciation for each other, you have to get along with each other to do that. And most bands, there's always some conflict that either fuels their artistic endeavors or it crushes it. And with Band-Maid, you just have a band that they appreciate each other. So all that fuels what they do. So it's a rare thing. You're right. It's a unique thing that you just don't see that often. Rush is a band like that. You mentioned them earlier. They're a band like that. They don't have egos within the band. All they care about is making music. They didn't mess around and do drugs and ruin their career. They just did what they wanted. And, they went as long as they could.
Hmm.
All right, Ryan, this has been a fantastic conversation. I keep asking, I need new adjectives. This wasn't a fantastic conversation. This was
Fabulous, gorgeous,
we'll go with I don't know
wondrous,
about gorgeous, wondrous.
enchanting, delightful,
Enlightening. How about that? I like that one.
There we go. That'll work.
Thanks so much for spending a little time with us today, Ryan. Peter, anything you want to add at the end?
Briefly, I genuinely like you a lot, Ryan. Not as
Thanks,
a
man.
reactor or whatever else, just as a person. I mean, when I met you, there's something very real and honest and warm about you. Yeah, and I don't know, that was just the first time I saw you, of course, but as I hear you talk and as I see you, I just I think your quality when it comes to people, I feel like you're one of the quality ones, so I appreciate that a lot. And
Well,
it's
thank you.
cool. It's really cool that to have you as a master, on Bandmate side, and just to have you sort of championing for them and helping them out, supporting them. So it's really cool.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Right. So once again, Ryan, thank you very much. People who are out there watching, I'm sure most of you know who he is. If you don't, go to YouTube, just at Ryan Mear. He's also part of the Gdjyb Guys podcast, which is every Sunday it's 11 o'clock my time, which is like, is it 1 p.m. your time or 2 p.m. your time?
2
Okay,
yeah.
so 11 o'clock on the West Coast, 2 p.m. on the East Coast. Check those guys out. It's a great live stream. They always have fun. They talk about all kinds of different Japanese bands. Ryan is kind of the go-to Band-Maid guy who does all the updates. So
Yeah.
That's where you get your information from. I filled in for you last Sunday poorly, but I did my best. But check him out. Check out his Patreon. Check out his Discord. He's all over the place. Really good guy. Great reactions. So with that, I am SJ Nix, and for Peter, this has been Made News Network. I can never sign off. This has been Made News Network with Ryan Mear. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Remember, like, subscribe. Please leave a comment, good, bad, or otherwise. We'll keep doing this as long as you want us to. And with that, thank you for watching us here at Made News Network. See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
All right.
God damn it. Just once I could sign off without